This program is brought to you by UCKG.
Hello and welcome to the Love Talk Show.
Dear viewers, did you know that there are differences between a man and a woman other than just the physical one? The way we talk and listen is just one of them. For example, men usually process emotions very differently and respond to feelings in a way that some women do not understand, and vice versa.
That's the reason why men and women need to learn how to appreciate this difference and stop expecting their partner to act and feel the same way.
That's right. And one fact that most couples ignore, Anna, is the difference between genders, right? We're very different, and how it affects the relationship. That's why it's important to understand how men and women communicate, and it will help you avoid many conflicts in your relationship and will positively influence your communication with your partner. I pretty much relate to this topic today, Anna, because this to me was a major thing to understand. I didn't understand this before, and getting to understand this difference really was a turning point, at least in my side of the marriage.
So this is the topic today. The difference between men and women. And to begin our show, let's see some difference between them.
So the first tip is communicate differently. Usually men and women, I would say more often than not, they communicate in a very different way, Anna. Many times when a woman says no, the man will literally understand, no, okay, no is no. And then she's gonna say to him, oh, but why didn't you do it? Because actually many times for a woman, the no is a yes. You are the woman. Talk about it. How is this?
Yes, I remember many times you would ask me, oh, do you want to go to a restaurant? And I would say, no, not really. But I want you to insist. Mm-hmm. I want you to, okay, insist a little more. Let's go. Do you really want?
If you're a man and you're watching, this is a clear example of something that can drive a man crazy, because we're very literal. But it's not that the woman is wrong and the man is right, Anna. Is many people, they don't understand, they don't know. I didn't know that until I learned that even though we are the same species, our brains, they are very different. There are parts of the brain of the woman that are quite developed, and in that same area, the man's brain is not, and vice versa. So it's learning how to deal with these differences, or maybe not knowing about these differences, which was my case, I would say, that can bring many times a lot of stress and problems in the relationship. But this is just a taster, a teaser.
How different we are, huh?
Yes. We're gonna talk more in depth about these subjects today, but you have the second tip there, Anna.
The next tip is nothing box. Yes, men have a nothing box. Did you know that? So when men are stressed out or under any pressure at work, their way of relax is to turn to their nothing box.
It's crucial to understand, Anna, that men and women deal with stress
in a different way.
In a very different way. Very different way. Most of that, once again, we're not saying everybody's like this, but in most cases it is. I agree to that. For instance, what is the nothing box? When the man is stressed down, his head is full, thinking about the problems, dealing with the situation, the last thing he wants to do is to talk. He wants
we like to talk.
And it's a basic need. You know, I'm going to talk about basic needs in a second, but don't try to change him. Don't try to say, no. He doesn't need to watch TV now. He needs to sit down and watch his TV, and that's his way of unwinding. That's his way of releasing the pressure. Women, let me give you just a second. Sorry to cut you off, but I need to give women this tip. You're really gonna get some help now, some practical one. Please, the last thing that he needs is that in that moment you approach him and you say, what are you thinking about? It's not gonna help. He's not you. He's a man. He deals with stress in this way, and the best thing that you can do is, leave him by himself there for a while. He's gonna come out of that box eventually and talk to you. And men, please, the fact that you have a nothing box doesn't mean that you're gonna stay in that nothing box for 6 hours, for 12 hours, for the whole day. Try not to spend too much time and go back to your partner because she needs you too, right? And women, when they deal with stress, what do they need to do?
To talk. They want somebody to listen to them.
And in that moment, just listen. I know men and are natural problem solvers. When they listen to anyone who is telling them a problem, it's natural. The mind is programmed to give advice, to say, well, but you could try this, you could that. That's not what she needs. She needs you only to listen and, if possible, sympathize. Don't give any advice, just listen. And in this way, you will be helping each other a great deal on how to deal with stress. So we have now the next tip, interesting one. Make a list and think about it. This is one that will surprise you. And let me tell you why. Anna, if we would challenge here the viewers to make a list of the ideal partner, maybe you could do this right now. Take a couple seconds there just to think at the top of your head, what is the idea, some traits of the ideal partner for you? Probably the woman would describe a woman.
Yes.
And the man would describe a man. I would love a woman. She has to like football. She has to like, the fact that I go out with my buddies, right? And the woman would say what?
To go to shopping and to listen and talk a lot.
So yeah, this is it. But then again, if you get a person like this, you're gonna be frustrated. Yes. Because you don't want to marry another man if you're a man or another woman in this case, right? You want to find someone that is different and
you can add to your life.
Absolutely right. So don't expect this perfection, I would say. Don't expect that these differences will separate you for sure. No, there is a way to combine and make this even you stronger, because you learn from one another. You let each other be influenced by one another.
And you get better as a human being, as a husband, wife.
That's the whole purpose of the relationship. Anyone that is not ready for a change, please don't get involved in a relationship because you only get to problems.
The next tip is basic needs. Men and women have basic needs because of their male and female makeup. Certain things need to be done for a marriage to work.
That's right, Anna. And for instance, we all have basic needs. Every human being does, right? Sleeping, eating, drinking water. No one will criticize the other for saying, oh, what? You're gonna sleep tonight? Oh, are you gonna drink water today? No, we don't question this. We understand we need to do these things. In the relationship, it's also important to understand that there are basic needs. For instance,
you need to be sensitive to these basic needs and to observe and to work for the well-being of the relationship.
Not only your own, right? The one of your partner too. You need to know what your partner needs and be willing to meet you. You don't argue over this. Like you would not argue that someone needs to rest or to sleep every night. You just meet.
The basic, right?
Because the thing is, Anna, when basic needs are not met, people begin to behave differently.
Yes.
When something happens, like an earthquake, a natural disaster many times, then there's no food supply, no water supply, people begin looting. Yeah, I'm not saying this is the right thing to do.
Anymore.
Yeah, they're no longer acting naturally. Yeah. So, you may be seeing a certain wild behavior from your partner if you're in a relationship and you don't understand why is she behaving like this, why is he behaving like that. It's because maybe the basic needs are not being met. So when this happens, serious problems they ensue, right? So these are the initial tips. As we said, we're going to be speaking more about this today. We have a very exciting program lined up for you. We're going to speak to someone today who's going to be talking to us about communication, and it's going to be a great program to give you tips for you to have a very good relationship with your partner.
Now we'll go for a short break. Stay with us.
Hello, dear viewer. If you are dealing with difficult problems in your relationship, such as
Fights,
or healing from a harsh breakup,
jealousy,
communication issues, or things of the like, come to the Love Therapy this Thursday and every Thursday at 8 p.m. in Finsbury Park, 232 Seven Sisters Road, N4, 3NX. For more information, visit our website, lovetherapy.co.uk. See you here.
see you.
So welcome back to today's Love Talk Show. Anna, we're talking about an interesting topic, the difference between the man and the woman, right? In many aspects. And to develop today's topic even more, we have here two lovely couples to help us to talk about today's topic. Andrew and Samantha, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us here.
Bruno and Paul, thanks
Hi.
for coming too, all right?
Thank you.
So I would like you both to talk a little bit about yourselves. For instance, how long have you both been married?
18 years.
18 years, right? And you?
Well, we've been 4 years married, going on 5.
All right, okay. So, of course, in the beginning, it's difficult for everyone, right? No one who says that marriage is easy, either they don't know what they're talking about or they're not being sincere, because we know it takes a lot of hard work, right?
It does take
But
hard work.
you know, one of the aspects, for instance, of the difference between the man and the woman is in the communication. You know, one thing that will drive a man crazy, for instance, is when the woman says no and she actually means yes, and then he takes it as no as the final answer, and then she gets upset with him, and then he doesn't understand why is she upset to begin with. So I would like you both, you feel free to talk about this. How did this difference manifest in your relationships, and what were the difficulties and the problems it created? How did you learn to deal with it?
Well, I think that was a huge problem in our first years of marriage, was communication. I'm speaking for myself. I tend to, if I had something in my mind, or I just expected and would automatically think that he already knows what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. And that was a big problem, of not explaining yourself, not communicating, just assuming that he knows and he understands, he knows what to do, even if it's
like he was reading your
like he can
mind.
just read my mind, and and it could be something so simple as bring home a bottle of milk. I'm already thinking that he will know that the milk has run out, and he will already know to bring home milk. And I haven't communicated with him to say, darling, send a message, can you bring milk home? And then I'll say, when he comes in, I'll be like, but darling, why haven't you brought the milk? And it could actually take something so small as that to set off a little tiff. A little lover's tiff.
And how did you deal with that difference?
Oh, I just made sure I had cows in the garden to get milk. No, I just, it was a learning process. And, at first I was thinking to myself, okay, this marriage, I'll get to know this woman. She's so lovely and I love her, and if I have patience. And then you realize sometimes that what may work on one day doesn't necessarily work on another day. It's you kind of, I suppose in the early days I was processing how work. You do something at work and one day, and you can use the same strategy the next day and it will work. With these wonderful species, you can't. It doesn't work that way. So yeah, that took some getting
It's
used to.
true, you know. There's many differences. We will even come back. I will invite you to come back after this break. We're gonna play a game here where we're gonna guess if something connects more to men or to women. But one thing about women is that they are more intuitive, I would say, than men. Yeah. And men are not, you know, we are stronger in other aspects, right? In focusing on one thing, women are usually more multitasking, good at it than men. But it's a truth, because then you expect that he will know, that intuitively he will know what you're, you know, why you're reacting this way, but many times we don't.
That's very true.
And it's true, many times, you know, you were expecting that I would understand the message that you were not saying. And when I didn't, it caused a little bit of, you know, not major problems, but sometimes I was saying, you know, what is she expecting? It's important that you communicate verbally. The man needs to be told, oh, this is not good. Don't put it here. I don't like when you do it this way, because if you just assume he knows, most of the time he doesn't know. All right, the communication has to be clear. He's not a woman, he's a man. It's important to understand this difference. And in your case, you and Bruna, Paul.
Yeah.
How do you think that this difference manifests in your relationship, and how did you deal with it?
Well, the first thing that comes in mind is in terms of organization, right? So I consider myself to be very organized, and she doesn't, because in her perspective, my type of organization is messy. And we men tend to be messy, but there's a reason for that. I'll give you an example. For example, whenever I get home, or this used to happen, this doesn't happen anymore because, well, we adapted. And when I used to get home, I used to leave my keys like on the table, and then I would just turn around, get a glass of water. When I would look back, it would be gone. And then I would be like, where are my keys? Am I going crazy? What happened? And it wasn't there anymore. And I would put like my jacket on the chair because I knew I would use it afterwards. So in my mind was, I'm just gonna leave it here so that I'm gonna use it like in 10, 20 minutes from now. And in her perspective was, why are you leaving this here? This is not supposed to be here. So I thought it was like very well organized because I left my objects exactly where I wanted them to be, so that would be in like an easy access, like after 10, 20 minutes. And in her mind, well, no, this has to be in the room, in this separate like place, and that would be something that I would not understand her, and she wouldn't understand me either. So perspective, that's the difference.
And what do you think about it?
It's true. When we got married, it was like all mess because we didn't know. Like I didn't know him. I just finally met him when we got married, and then I saw that he had this particular things because he said when we were dating, he said, "No, I'm very organized. I do things properly. You won't be worried about anything." I was like, "Hey, finally, I found a man that is organized." But it's like different perspectives, like he said. So I was very like strict. This has to be here, and this has to be here, and this like that, and it was different. So we had to adapt.
Yeah.
He way the things that he liked and the things that I liked in our house, in a way that he wouldn't be mad at me because I took his keys. In a way that I wouldn't be mad because it's not messy, it's all organized.
I mean, I was organized, just not on the right place.
The main
your way,
Yeah.
right?
It's awful.
Yeah. Can you speak about one thing from one another that you wanted to change, could not change, and what did you have to do to live with it?
Well, straight away when Paul was speaking, I was thinking about my husband. I just pictured my husband's desk, because his office desk has all his paperwork, his accountancy work, everything on it. But when you look on it, it's a mess. Crazy a mess.
Not for him, huh?
Not for him.
No.
And for a time in our early stages of our relationship, I used to just go in, asking no questions, dive in and do my spring cleaning.
Oh dear, I remember that.
He remembers
I remember
it so
those
well.
days.
And I tell you, I remember one evening he came home from work and I was so proud of myself. I was so happy. Oh my God, when he comes to see his desk, it looks amazingly tidy. Everything's
He's going
been
to be
put
so
up.
happy.
He's going to be
Oh,
so
yeah.
happy. And he came in and he did his nuts. He really went crazy. And he goes, oh my God, I spent hours doing my accountancies. Everything has been organized and put, what have you done? I literally went to tears. He was so upset with me that I just broke down crying. I didn't even know, he was so upset with me for a few days, which we realise now.
I think I'm trembling even now thinking about it. Because, it was really terrible because she did cause a big problem for me because it was my accounts. And I was putting them monthly and when I couldn't believe it. But I realised that it is about that communication. It was very late and I'd stayed up very late and then left very early. And it was something that we started to learn, that I started to learn with my wife. Okay, although she was wrong, and yes, I was upset, but simple communication goes very far. If I couldn't tell her, I could have left a little note, or a big note. Please do not touch. It is the small things that we forget. And they're not that hard. When it comes to marriage, they're not that hard to make the adjustment. Once you have the appreciation of quiet times and good times, because the time that you have together is very important, and sometimes, depending on your profession, it's very limited. And I remember in the early days, you go to work and I would miss my wife and children. But at the time I had to do my work, and it meant that when you come home, communication is different from a 9-to-5 person. And I remember thinking in the early days of marriage, this is, how will we have time to sort things out? And I think as couples, you have to be aware and you have to have patience with each other. Sometimes the person has more time than other people. So that I'm not saying that there's an excuse, but sometimes there are reasons that have to be looked into.
Right.
And we have to have compassion, because that valuable time you get together, you can't spend too much of it in disputes.
That's absolutely right.
And
it takes an intelligent approach, I would say, right? You cannot be operating on emotions, because when problems arise, you operate on emotions, then it only gets worse. And as you're talking about work, and I think one of the sharing with everyone here, the difficult things for me sometimes is to disconnect from work and just connect with what I need to do with her at times, to talk about how her day went. I think I've gotten better at it, but also you had a lot of patience, especially in the beginning with me, and I was there and at home, but still talking about work, and work is important, but there has to be a time. Usually men have a little bit more of a problem with this than women, I guess, right? Where we disconnect from work and we can appreciate everything that the partner is doing, and this is so important. So I would like to also to hear from you. What was something that you couldn't change about her or you about him, and how did you deal with it?
Well, there's a classic example of like the toilet seat, right? So I remember that there were there were times that she would complain that I would leave the toilet seat up, right? Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't understand why she would, why does it bother her? So what I had to do was I had to sit down and ask her, why does it bother you? Like simple conversation. And then she told me it's a matter of being clean or looking clean. And I was like, okay, that doesn't make much sense. I mean, it is clean. So I had to actually research and see what and like a toilet seat, open toilet seat would do to your health, and like when you flush, what are the like scientific explanations behind that? And I actually found something interesting, and I thought, okay, so I'm gonna stop flushing with the toilet seat up. I'm gonna leave it down. And because of my research, it helped actually.
I can get here from Paul already, Bruno. He's a very sensible man, right? Everything has to be making perfect sense in his mind once he understands something. So I guess you already got it, and you
Yes.
can use it in a wise way to make him happy and for the benefit of the relationship, right?
This is what I'm going to say, because in our relationship so far, everything that we had that it wasn't working, that we saw that it wasn't right, we managed to change. So Paulo changed things that he had, like that he used to do, and I changed things that I used to do. And I was thinking about the question. I don't think we'd have anything that we haven't changed since the marriage, because the first years of marriage was like worse. If you haven't changed, we wouldn't be married today. So we had to sacrifice to be married today. And
I think it's usually the years where one is trying to change the other,
Yeah.
right? And then you realize at some point, hopefully you realize it at some point, it doesn't work. And then you shift focus to changing yourself. And I think that this is the whole idea. It's like there's a lot of her in me, and I believe there's a lot of, you on each other, right? And a lot of me in her too. And I think that this is the beauty, one of the most beautiful things about marriage, because you become a much stronger individual, a wiser individual, if you have this intelligent approach. So that's why we'll continue talking about intelligent love here. Even though usually people connect love to emotions, they draw the heart and everything. Love involves good emotions, of course, but they're not going to rise automatically. In order for you to have good emotions, you have to sow intelligent seeds, right? This is very important. I want to thank you both. We're not done yet. We need to go to a break now. We're enjoying this conversation very much. I hope you are too. And hopefully got important tools here from this conversation with us. But we're going to go to a break now. And when we come back, guess what? We have a special game that even you can be a part of. You can do it from home, and I'm certain you will enjoy it too. We'll be right back. Hello, dear viewer. We are here and we came in the middle of the break to tell you this. The best way for you to learn how to deal with your relationship problems, Anna, is to learn how to deal with
ourselves. If you don't know how to deal with yourself, you don't know how to deal with others.
That's right. That's why we have the Love Therapy. Every Thursday at 8 p.m. in Finsbury Park, 232 Seven Sisters Road, N4, 3NX, and also in some other locations. For more information, visit our website, lovetherapy.co.uk. See you there.
See you.
Welcome back to Love Talk, and now we have changed the arrangement here, right? Divided the gentlemen from the ladies because we're gonna play a game. And who is more competitive? Are men more competitive or women more competitive? What do you think?
I think men.
Yeah? I think they agree to that too. But who's gonna win today?
We're gonna win.
I'm not that sure about who's more competitive. You see, when you ask the question. So the game consists on this. We're gonna tell you some phrases here. We're gonna some statements, and we're gonna start with a blank something, and you have to fill in the blank with men or women. What do you think? Okay, you can think about it, and then you give the answer. All right? Let me start with the men. I'm going to be asking the questions to the men. You ask the questions to the ladies.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So the first question for the men is, blank brains have more nerve cells and connectors. Which brain has more nerve cells and connectors? The man or the woman? We need an answer. Do you have an answer?
Let's go with that.
Yes? What do you think?
More. So I think women.
Women.
Yeah.
Well, according to what is written on this card here, I'm not sure how accurate this is, But yes, it's women. Women have more nerve cells and connectors, right? Which, I'm just joking here, which allow the brain to be more efficient and effective. This is one of the main differences, one of the main reasons there is this difference. There are parts in the women's brain that are way more developed than the men's one, and other areas where the men's brain is more developed, different from the woman. So when it comes to seeing things, communication, much of the difference comes from that, even though we are the same species, but we are very different in essence, and we need to learn how to deal with these differences. So,
Okay, the next question for us women. Blank use the left side of their brain, and blank use both sides at the same time. So complete the
so who uses the left side of the brain,
yeah.
and who
And you
uses
use the
both sides
I think
simultaneously?
Yes, I think men use both sides.
Is it?
And we use only one. I think so. What do you think?
Okay.
What's
An
that?
answer? Yes.
Right, we're gonna go with we're gonna go with
With what?
with the men using the
The both. I think men use
men
both.
using both
and
sides of the
women
brain,
Use only one,
and women using the left side.
the left side.
No.
Sorry.
There's a key word. Multitasking.
Yes, I was thinking that was
Multitasking.
I
You
did
nailed
say.
it. You nailed it. That's why women are usually better at multitasking,
Yes,
right?
I mean we had a difference
both
of
sides.
opinion with this one.
Yes, it says here men tend to perform tasks that use the left side of the brain,
right,
which is more the logical and rational side. Women tend to use both sides simultaneously because of their ability to rapidly transfer information between left and right sides of their brain. That's one of the reasons why also they can talk about so many different topics that are not connected.
And we talk so
Which-
much, don't we?
and we don't understand that. How can you go from football to science?
To nails.
To nails.
It had to be two.
To
Yes,
news. So for us, you know, we have to be
I kind of knew that.
everything
question.
right, step by step. But this is the difference. You see how nice this is. Now, 1-0, huh? Let's see. You have still the chance to win this. Let me ask now one for the man here. So blank hears better than blank. So who hears better?
I think
A better hearing. Whose hearing is more developed?
listen to when children.
Come on, guys. We've got this.
There's a neurosensor that they hear when babies cry. So I think women hear better than men.
Women hear better than men. Final answer?
Is that our final?
Final answer.
Yeah. Because I know for a fact that women can sense when children are crying, so they have more sensible
They have
hearing.
better hearing.
Oh.
I have to say that your answer is right. Correct.
Well done.
2-0. We got 2-0. Just a quick explanation here.
With you.
You see, girls, they have 11% more neurons than boys in the brain centers that control language and hearing. Paul is a language teacher, so that's good information also for you. Not only do women hear better than men, they can also better distinguish between a broader range of emotional tones like crying. So, nice fact here. Now, your chance.
So the next one, let's go on.
We'll get it this time.
So blank thrive in conflicts and blank avoid it.
I don't think it's a hard one.
I think I can see that
Who
the questions
thrives
are
in
hard in
conflict?
here.
And who avoids it?
I don't
Well,
want to.
I would,
we don't
I
even
would
need-
say that the men avoid it, and the women
Say it.
Thrive in conflict,
strive in conflict.
right? So your answer is that women thrive in conflict and men
Yes.
avoid it. Yeah?
Do you agree, Bruna?
I believe I think so.
She's
Yeah.
on the fence.
I'll get
She's
in
on
your.
the fence,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
This time
So,
she's going to go in my
I
court.
will. I will. I trust in you.
Last time she went in her
So-
own court.
I trust in you.
It's wrong. Then.
Sorry again. Sorry.
Wow.
You got it wrong.
goodness.
I thought this one was gonna be easy for you because
Yeah.
usually men they're like conflict. Women
So
are more pacifiers.
females
Right?
are more concerned with social approval and preserving relationships than males.
Wow. So it's 2-0. Let's go. The game is not over yet.
learning.
Let's see, guys. We have to
getting there.
finish here. We're coming to the end of the game, so we have to finish on a high note. For the men now, blank are more consistent than blank. So who is more consistent? Men or women when it comes to consistency, being consistent at something?
I think women change their mind a lot. So I would say
Are the
men.
women more consistent or are the men more consistent? What do you think?
Well, we agreed that women change their minds a lot, so men
more
are more
consistent.
consistent.
Oh, guys, come on. You got it right again. That's right. It says here that a woman's hormonal...
this.
Yeah, see how interesting? A woman's hormonal shifts and changes are much more frequent and severe than men's. Women are constantly under the influence of their monthly hormonal shifts, and they are more severe than we would like to believe. This can make a female act very differently from week to week. That's absolutely right. I see this at home. But let us move on
We dramatize more, don't we, us women?
to the next question
So
for
the
the ladies now.
next. Blank are better special tasks.
No, actually, at
special
spatial
Spatial
tasks.
tasks.
Who has a better notion of
Yeah.
space?
Like
Men or
read
women?
maps to measure who are better.
Well, I'm
saying
going to go men.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think men would be.
I'm going to say the men.
Yes.
It says- You got it.
We know that for a
one.
fact because when we're driving, we cannot trust, well, I'm not going to generalize, but I cannot trust at least women with their maps.
Absolutely. This is a
it's
very
true.
important point you
It's
made
true. I'm
because,
terrible
of
sat
course,
nav, I am.
this is what we're speaking here is in general, right? For instance, in our family, she's better with Waze than I am. If you remove the sat nav, I cannot get from here to the corner. She can do, once, and she says, no, that's when you turn right, that's when you turn left. Oh, I saw this tree here, that's the billboard where you. I don't pay attention to none of these things. So she's really good with directions. So in no ways we're saying that everyone is like this. We're not generalizing, but it's just that we're speaking about majority. Yeah.
Yes.
So. In an explanation to that, the difference is documented in both kids and adults, and it's likely because the special movement area in the male brain, or the spatial movement area in the male brain, runs on autopilot, but in the female brain, it's on standby, waiting to be turned on. So, did you like it?
I loved it. Even though we lost, but.
Oh,
We
yeah.
learned,
But you see,
yeah.
the important thing is to see how different, right? We see here, we learn from this. So, understand. For a relationship to succeed, you need to understand these differences. A man will never be a woman will never be a man. We are different individuals. Learn to love intelligently and use these differences to your favor. For instance, if she has a better notion than I do, so it's okay to listen to her and not say, no, I know the way, and this is, then I get completely lost and you say, oh, okay, now where should we go? So learn to use this as a teamwork, right? And for sure you'll be
Give and
happy.
take.
Yeah. So I hope you had fun. We had fun here, didn't we? Right?
We
It was
had
nice
fun.
with you.
We enjoyed.
And hopefully
We learned a
learn
lot.
also some things with the difference between the man and the woman. All right. Now, I want to thank both couples for helping us today, right? And sharing your experiences, okay? And also you who are watching us, don't go anywhere. We're going to go to a break now and we'll be right back.
The non-verbal communication is as important as verbal communication. We don't just have the gift of speech, we also have our facial expressions, gestures, posture, and body movements to deliver a message. Our mouth is not the only body part we can use to get information across to others. Body language can reinforce and emphasize what a person is saying and also convey information about their emotions. Just 7% of communication is with the words. The rest, 93%, is non-verbal. When someone is to make a speech, they spend a lot of time choosing the right words to say, but forget that the audience will also pay attention to their body language. When you are doing an interview, the body language will help you to stay positive and confident, and this will be transferred to the interviewer. Keeping eye contact and controlling your hands are just some of the examples to pay attention to. Men and women use pretty much the same body language, but there are some differences. The way we nod. When a man nods, he wants to show agreement, while women want to show she's listening. The way we are approached. A woman likes to be approached from the front, while a man from the side. She does not like someone coming from behind her. She likes to see who is coming to talk to her. She feels more secure, while a man thinks less aggressive if someone comes from the side. Other examples are facial expressions, touch, and vocal range. And you will also be surprised to know what body language can reveal about your relationship. It can raise some red flags. Sometimes you will see that there's a problem through your body signs. The non-verbal communication can cause tension and pain, but can also cause happiness, confidence, and security. Reading and using body language correctly will help you to avoid a misunderstanding. So be aware what you say and how you say it.
So, welcome back to the Love Talk Show. And Anna, at first, it sounds even strange to say that, as the video claimed that only 7% of our communication is verbal. But come to think of it, it makes sense because you can say the same words with a different body language and communicate different things. For instance, you can say, okay, or you can say, okay, I'm listening, okay. It's the same words.
It's very different the way that the others receive this message.
Yes, you're transmitting a completely different message. So that's and communication is key to every relationship. So to talk more about this, we have brought today a special guest. Elle is here with us. Thanks for coming, Elle.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Welcome to the Love Talk Show.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you, talk a little bit about yourself. What do you do? And what do you think about this? You have to be aware of what you say and how you say it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So first of all, I've never been more conscious of my body language now. Now I'm on a body language show.
I think we all are.
But my name is Elle and I'm head of matchmaking at Mutual Attraction. Mutual Attraction is an offline dating agency here in London, working with single professionals looking for a committed relationship.
Right.
And a facet of our matchmaking does involve coaching and the likes of sort of helping people perhaps with their non-verbal body language. Yeah. And I think that men and women, however similar you think you might be to a partner, men and women do non-verbally communicate fundamentally differently. And not knowing perhaps these cues or sort of non-verbal communication skills can actually hinder you from your relationship flourishing. If I give you a couple of examples. So we saw in the video about nodding, and it said about how men and women, so women typically will nod when they are showing that they're listening in a conversation, whereas a male will nod when he is agreeing. Okay. So, certainly if you're a woman and a man is talking and you don't agree with what they're saying, don't nod, because they'll probably view that as that you're agreeing. Also our facial expressions, which come into play a lot when you're on a date. Typically we have more than 10,000 facial expressions that we are able to use, and women are far better at using them. Men typically don't smile as much as women, and I think on a date this can be quite disconcerting for the woman, because it's very hard to read them. So I think for a male, it's important that if you do want to come across warm and engaging, to use some facial expressions.
It's interesting. I was thinking here, El, like especially for singles, in the beginning of the relationship, or you just met someone, that a lot of the communication can be masked, right? Because of the emotions involved, the anxiety, you don't know much about the other person, you kind of feel awkward.
Yeah.
So what would be some tips for those who are single on a first date or a first encounter? What could they do in order to, let's say, break the ice a little bit, to make it easier, to make that first encounter go smoother?
Yeah, okay, so I think what's the main focus should be is to use your eye contact. You have to engage, you have to look someone in the eye, and without holding that eye contact, it again can make someone come across very nervous or insecure and not very confident, and that can be a little bit off-putting for the person on the receiving end of it. So it's really important that you hold your eye contact. Not in a creepy way where you just stare them
Just
out.
looking at the person.
You've got to get the balance, strike the balance.
Right.
Otherwise, it can, as I said, it can be creepy. And I also think things like posture. It's very important. So hold yourself correctly, and perhaps use sort of inward leaning across a table where you're showing that sort of engagement and enthusiasm for what that person's saying, rather than sort of sitting right back, sort of giving off the message that you might not be too bothered.
Yes, another thing that we were talking about on today's episode is how men and women are very different from one another. Even though we are the same species, but we communicate in a very different way, right?
Hugely.
And many times, problems in a relationship, now talking about relationships a little bit, come from men and women not understanding these differences. For instance, I was just saying here on a previous segment that many times when a woman says no, actually she means yes. He just wants the man to show that he really wants to, he's interested, he wants to do it, and he wants to include her. But for a man, if he says no, okay, no means no, so she doesn't want to do it, and then she gets upset. But in the he doesn't understand why is she getting upset. So did you have experiences with this in a life or line of duty where one didn't communicate well with the other, or was transmitting a message that the other one didn't understand?
Yeah, well, I think you're so right. It's the classic we hear, isn't it? That the women, if they say that I'm fine, they're not. Just take it as that means the opposite of I'm fine. It means I'm so not fine with this. And I think that although we are talking about non-verbal communication, I think the verbal side of things is also very interesting because, again, men and women are fundamentally different. As sexes, we communicate the same amount of words per day. I think it's about approximately 16,000 words a day. And yet, women will talk about other people and feelings, and men typically talk about objects or their surroundings. So again, even that verbal communication is of a different interest, and then the non-verbal side of it comes to play as well. So the more education on these things and the more we literally communicate, it's just transparency is better and you have more of an understanding.
Good. I would like to ask you about the no-nos. What would be some no-nos, for instance, on a first encounter, or even in couples that are already in a relationship when it comes to body language? For instance, I'm thinking here, the infamous eye roll. Like one is talking and the other one is... You're not saying anything, but you're communicating that you're completely maybe disgusted or repulsive to whatever is being said. So what would be some of the no-nos in non-verbal communication?
I would say no-nos are, well, if you're in a relationship or dating, you want to be showing that you are, because there's two of you. So what are you bringing to the table? You can't just sit back and eye roll and whatever. So I think it's important that you show engagement with eye contact, as we said. So a big no-no would be not looking them in the eye. I also think that, again, with perhaps if you're meeting someone, let's talk about a business partnership, because that's a relationship. a weak handshake. You know, it's important that you have a firm handshake. It's important that you exert that confidence. And then again, that plays on the posture side of things. So bad posture, I think that would be a big no-no, because again, it's not deemed to be very attractive. If someone's got really poor posture, you don't want to be sat next to someone or across a table, whether it be business or social or a romantic
It's
relationship.
another kind of message that the person is sending.
Without saying
or
anything.
that they're not necessarily confident and self-assured, and those two attributes are only attractive, aren't they?
Yeah, and you see also, Anna, I think a lot of the communication also, well, if it's being done intelligently, a more rational approach to communication, it evolves throughout the years, for instance, where one starts to understand the other and even communicate in the sense of, for instance, she understands that he needs his time, his quiet time.
Yeah.
So she's gonna be leaving him at that moment by himself because he is unwinding, he's dealing with stress. He understands that now she needs to talk, and he doesn't need to give her advice. He only needs to listen. So I think also that what we're getting through the program today and also through our talk, El, is that this is crucial, right? The non-verbal communication is so fundamental to the relationship. Could you give some tips for married couples about communication? How could they make it better? What are things that are crucial, fundamental for a happy relationship?
Yeah, and I think you're so right. You know, the non-verbal communication is so fundamental to form the grounding of then a good relationship. So I think for married couples, obviously things in time, like anything, can slip because we get a little bit complacent or lazy. And so I think the key thing for married couples would be to be consistent. You know, keep it, keep the communication on both levels going. I would say show affection. So in the sense of look your partner in the eye, you know, gesture with a soft touch, kiss with enthusiasm.
Why is it that people lose it sometimes throughout the time, El?
The
Because
beginning was so much,
I
and
know,
then
well,
it's fading away.
It's hard to say because I'm engaged, but I'm not married yet. So I'll come back in 5 years' time and tell you how we're getting on.
And give your opinion. It may be a question to pose here even for a next episode. You know, why is it that at some point in the relationship, it shouldn't be this way, as you're saying, this is important, right? To keep the relationship alive.
Yeah,
right?
it is important, and I think it's working relationship, isn't it? You do have to work at these things, and just like you do in your professional career or development, you're constantly looking to better yourself. People forget, you know, personal development and wanting to better oneself and work at it. So I think it's important that.
And in your line of work, I mean, helping singles, you know, and coaching them and helping them to have a successful first encounter and everything.
Yeah.
What is it that most singles are having a difficulty with when it comes to dating?
Well, I think the landscape of sort of the dating scene in London looks quite different these days, and it actually, I believe it very much plays on the lack of non-verbal communication that's going on in the city. I don't think anyone's kind of clocking eyes with one another and eye flirting. I don't think anyone feels comfortable approaching. And without all the invitations to say, hey, look, let's have some dialogue. People have their headphones in, they're reading a book, they're looking at their phones, they have so many non-verbal cues to say, please don't disturb me, or actually don't talk to me, when actually it's the last thing people want, and they do want to be spoken to, and they do want someone to say, hi, how you doing? I'd love to take you for a drink. But it's not happening because none of these non-verbal communications are at play. And I think it's all gone to the screens.
Yes.
And people are losing the art of how to communicate.
That's right. I think technology is a great thing, but we need to have a balance.
Got to have a balance.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It cannot affect your relationship, even with people around you, right? I think back in the days, people were interacting much more, and this was a very positive thing. But this is it. I hope these tips that you have received here today have helped you. I want to thank you, Elle, all right, for coming by and for doing the great work that you're doing, right? Success to you, right? And this is it. It's important. It's always good also to look for help. When you are not succeeding on your own, get some help. And it was a pleasure being with you until now. This is it from us today, and until next week with another Love Talk show. Bye-bye.
But we're gonna have to win.
We'll see about that.
We'll see about that. We'll see about
I'm
that.
saying all is fair in love and war. Okay, so.
There are differences between a man and a woman that...
Why? The next tip is... Sorry. So the next tip...
This program is brought to you by UCKG.